All right. So I guess now you understand what the plan was.
Absolutely. At Colts Law, we talk Indianapolis Colts football.
We're going to stick to what we know, fundamentals and technique, 1% better every day.
What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, is my guy, Loyalist. And today we are going to go over this upcoming Sunday's matchup. Oh, what a doozy do we have for you. And that is the Philadelphia Eagles walking in to Lucas Oil Stadium to face the Indianapolis Colts. Quick initial thoughts about the game there, Loyalist?
Very excited. It's going to be a tough test. I understand that. But all things considering, I'm really excited to see, because this is what this team's been built up for. You know what I mean? Yeah, and this is where the Colts have shined. You know, unusually. You know, we play guys we're a favor or whatever. It's like, oh, we don't do so well. We play the Chiefs or somebody that's really rated, you know, to have a dominating performance against us, and the Colts always step up for that occasion. So I am here for it.
Absolutely. Now, I almost this close wore my Colts Law sweatshirt, but I was like, this is warm also. So, you know, and I didn't want to jump out of it, but it is chilly out here in Indiana. I mean, it's not as bad as Buffalo, but I mean, it's getting a little chilly out there. But I'll tell you what, Sunday is going to warm up like crazy. Talk about chilly. Jeff Saturday is out there. He's like, look, we're going to practice outdoors. I don't care if it's cold outside. You know, as long as the field is not slick on that grass, we're going to practice outdoors in the open air on the grass. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. First off, you know, you sit there and you talk about these game reps and stuff that these guys get on this turf or fake grass or whatever, you know, and how it's harder on the joints. So you look at it from that perspective, it's like, I understand, you know, these guys spend a lot more time on the practice field than they do, you know, in on game fields. But secondly, he had mentioned the energy, just the spark of electric energy, you know, from the team and stuff whenever they're outdoors. I mean, you think about it, that's where these guys have cut their teeth, you know, as kids growing up and coming into colleges, you know, that electric feel of and excitement of just playing a game they love. So I'm on board. Like I said, these guys are tough enough. A little cold weather shouldn't hurt them. I mean, heck, be honest with you, I was a little disappointed that Buffalo, you know, moved the game. I mean, I'm like, it's Buffalo. Come on, that's their advantage. What are you guys doing?
But if there's 6 feet of snow, you're literally the quarterbacks are going to be like this. You know, they won't even be able to see the people. I mean, granted, they got to plow it out and everything, but that's a lot of work. And let's be fair. If they end up with 6 feet of snow, that's a national emergency, and you ain't even allowed out of your house at that point. So, you know.
Well, and in all honesty, you know, if you want to look at how both teams are built, I would sit there and argue that the Browns are built better for that type of weather and stuff. Whenever you look at the Diggs and the Davises and how they like to stretch things down the field, so I get it. It's just like I said, it just the old soul in me. It's just like, come on, guys, what are we doing here, moving this thing?
Well, I'll tell you what, the players are happy about it because ain't nobody want to play in that nasty stuff. It might be kind of fun, but players don't like the cold. All right, I'm just tell you that right now. Wick in here says it's 6 feet of snow right now. It is bad. Yeah, and I don't doubt it. I don't doubt. Now, I remember the Colts going to Buffalo a few years back with Frank Gore at the running back, and that was a fun game to watch. You know, it kind of looked like a fun game to play in, to be honest. I mean, the cold is the cold, but, you know, you get tackled in snow. I remember playing in snow. I'm from Indiana. I played high school, college football in freaking snow, and landing in it, that makes things a whole lot more fun. It's just once you get up, the stuff starts to melt, and then it freezes, and next thing you know, you're like, I'm a walking freaking icicle. That part is not fun. Okay.
Especially when, I mean, can you imagine that? Because that ball gets so hard out in the cold and stuff, and then you got a big old cannon arm. I mean, seriously, that ball is starting to look like a cannonball coming out of Josh Allen's arm, even with a dinged up elbow.
But we're not here to talk about Buffalo. We're here to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles walking into Lucas Oil Stadium. Both teams coming off completely polar opposite weeks this past Sunday, where the Indianapolis Colts, their initial they're brand new, interim head coach gets his first win of the year against. Let's just be honest here. If there's a team out there that is more in dire straits than the Colts are right now, it is the Raiders. And then the Philadelphia Eagles playing against Washington, and no one expected them to lose that game, but they ended up with 3 turnovers and only half the time of possession, as Washington ran the ball nearly 40 times in that game. That's ridiculous. I'll tell you what, man, is this a game where, we were looking at the Jeff Saturday and this hopefully new offensive line and Jonathan Taylor maybe, putting it to him a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that has to be the first, the second, and the third most important thing in this game because, like you said, man, I mean, it kind of stinks that Washington went and exposed this, because now you see some of the transactions that the Eagles organization has done to try to plug that hole with, like the little guy and the finger in the damn thing, with the Ndamukong Suh and Joseph. So it's just like I said, because that's how we were going to bring, this game to this Eagles team, no matter what. I mean, that's what our DNA is, I mean, at least in years past. Granted, we've fallen a little short on that this year, but like you said, last week looked like we really found something. And I'm just, I said on a couple other shows, and Speed is here, yeah. At 30, this is one of those games. I'm not a 30 carry a guy kind of game for JT all the time, but this is one of those games where you really, really want JT to sit there and just get the ball early and often. And okay, if it's not JT getting 30, give him 25 and hit Zach Moss and Deion Jackson for the other 10 to 15. I don't care, but that ball, we've got to be just smashing this D-line, because, guys, they played Monday night. Fletcher Cox played 70 snaps. I mean, his tongue had to been just a wagon out there. But before I pass this back over to you, Lawrence, I would like, guys, if you haven't already, please smash that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and ring that notification bell. That way you're notified the next time we go live.
Absolutely. And don't forget, okay, as we discuss through here, we're going to get to the live chat, questions, comments, things of that nature. If you want to make sure your question or comment gets seen, feel free, use that link in the description of this video for a donation. It's just like a super chat, only, we get the majority of it rather than YouTube taking half. No offense to YouTube. If you still want to use YouTube, feel free, use the super chat option there as well. We most appreciate any and all donations and support to this channel as we are sitting here talking about being prepared for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, what's great about this game is, in all honesty, both teams are fairly healthy. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the Colts injury report right now, and yes, it's long, but there's a bunch of illnesses and just rest on this, right? Really the only guys that we have out in this game is Kwity Paye and Jelani Woods. Okay. And honestly, we didn't know what was going to go on with Jelani. He had limited practice on Wednesday, but couldn't practice the rest of the week. And Kwitty's still dealing with that ankle. We have 3 questionables: Zaire Franklin and Isaiah Rodgers and Braden Smith. Now, Zaire and Isaiah, they just have a sickness, probably the flu, okay? And they've got till Sunday, basically, to get up and going, before that whole, ruling them out for the game, the actives and inactives. So they've got, better than 24 hours still in order to get better off of that sickness. The only worrisome questionable we have, to me, is Braden Smith, okay, because he played very good football this past Sunday. He's actually played much better at tackle the last few weeks. And I can't think of a worse situation than Braden Smith happened to leaving, and either one of our backup tackles happened to fill in for him.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I look at Dennis Kelly and think that he could go in there and do a serviceable job. But like you said, Braden Smith and this O-line has really started to show some things over the last few weeks, but it cultivated in its first W, last week. And the thing is, but I one thing that I do worry about as far as, name you didn't mention because he was practicing today was Kenny Moore. But that illness, is what are these guys' what is their condition? Are they able to bring in all the oxygen you need? Because I'm sorry, when you're trying to cover, Devante Smith and AJ Brown and these guys, you really want to be able to get all the oxygen your body can need. So I hope that these guys, like I said, can sit there and not only be healthy enough to play, but hopefully healthy enough to be close to their best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I would not expect Ndamukong Suh to get very many snaps in this game. Let's face it, he is in the twilight of his career. He's not the same guy he was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And the fact he just came to the team, right? He don't know the guys around him. He don't know the playbook. He don't understand the situation that's going on. Excuse me. He's going to have very limited snaps in this situation. But if we go over to the Philadelphia Eagles and their injury report, they've only got one guy that's out, and that's Josh Jobe, the cornerback, dealing with that injury on his hamstring. Everybody else apparently is good to go. A.J. Brown dealing with the ankle. He's still good to go. Fletcher Cox has a foot injury. He's good to go. Kelsey with the ankle. Quinn with the back. Devonta Smith with the knee. Those are some big names. Don't get me wrong. But they're still full go, and they've been full practicing. So we're going to get a fairly overall healthy Philadelphia Eagles team walking in this Sunday.
Absolutely, because it's week 11. There's probably not a single person on the roster that plays any sizable amount of snaps. It's like, hey, I feel great. This is a hard profession as far as the body goes. And a couple names that we didn't mention because they're not on the injury report, but they have been placed on IR, and that's Shaq Leonard for the Colts, and then you look at Dallas Goedert for the Eagles. Both of those pieces also I feel like need to be mentioned here because for us, first off, me personally, and I'm sure you as well, Lawrence, Shaq, get 100%, my guy. Hope you recover, and I'm totally understanding and on board and like this move to just sit there and say, no, let's get this fixed. Went and got the surgery earlier in the week and just get as close to 100 for next year. Dallas Goedert, on the other hand, for the Eagles, he was playing, on this roster just a few days ago on Monday Night Football. So he's out with the shoulder. He's going to be out for 4 weeks or so or longer, and the thing is that right there is a big piece of their offense that they're going to have to fill. So like I said, like you said, I'm sorry, all this is, yes, they're fairly healthy. They're not void of obstacles to overcome, but who is at this time of year?
Absolutely. I think the only time we've ever played a team and they did not have an injury was Jacksonville week 2, right? And that freaked me out. I was like, what? No injuries at all to report. No one even has a runny nose. What? This is crazy. All right. Hangnail. Please list a hangnail. Anything. Make me feel better about this game. And that's the game that we lost 24-0 against. So the good thing is, after this game, we got a couple more weeks, and then we have our bye week, right? And we're hitting the stride. We're fairly healthy right now, got a few more games. If we could just stay a little bit fairly healthy, then we get that bye week, and then we're going to be good to go. So I'm really hoping for health over the next few weeks. Guys, just stay healthy. Obviously, play hard-nosed, tough football. Just don't go rolling ankles and stuff. Speaking of rolling ankles, and knee injuries, things like that. Let's talk about the Colts defense against this Philadelphia offense. This Philadelphia offense is incredibly electrifying, especially as we know, Miles Sanders still a very good running back out there. You got A.J. Brown, you got Devonta Smith, you got, this quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who I hear he can move, almost as good as Matt Ryan. All right. Even though Matt Ryan has a longer run last week than Jalen Hurts did, don't let that fool you at all. Okay. I'm pretty sure Jalen has better movement out there when it comes to scrambling than Matt Ryan. Our big problem, like I talked about with the injuries, is our strong side defensive end. That's the problem. That's the only issue I see on our defense right now. I love the whole rest of the Colts defense. They're number 4 in the NFL in yards given up. They're ranked number 1 by PFF right now, overall, as an overall NFL team defense. And a lot of other places rank them as number 4. So that's very, very impressive. Now, the issue is when we put guys in there at defensive end, we're already to our 3rd defensive end on strong side.
Yeah.
And that's really testing the depth of our strong side pass rush, which isn't just pass rush. That's strong side for a reason. You got to be really good at setting the edge against the run. And we're running out of guys to put there. Could we see Grover or DeForest Buckner move over there like we did last week a few times? That could be interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Defoe, you're going to see him up and down the line. But I will say that I've liked some of the flashes that I've saw from Dio Odengbo and from Ifedi Odenigbo. These guys have really – they're not consistently giving it to us, but there are flashes and stuff that you can be like, okay, let's double down on that, young buck. Let's do that again. But like you said, man, they are going to have to be disciplined in their gap. Even though we're all to the quarterback and stuff, keep your lanes, keep this thing, keep Hurts in that pocket, keep him to where he doesn't have free reign, and if you've got, Dio or Ifedi out there, that means you're probably going to have Grover and Defoe in the middle. Push the middle of that pocket and let them guys also just tighten that pocket around Hurts and stuff. And that's a tall task. I'm not going to pretend like this is easy. And the thing is he's not like Lamar Jackson of years past, because, it wasn't okay. As soon as he got out of that pocket, he was going to eat you alive with his leg. No, it's not guaranteed, because he's shown very often this year. He gets out and extends these plays, but then he can still drop a dime to AJ Brown for 30 plus yards and stuff. So this young man can beat you with his legs as well as his arms. So it's definitely a tall task for these guys. But I think, like I said, if they stay disciplined, set those edges, and let the center of the pocket, I think that's what this defensive line is going to excel at this week.
Absolutely. And honestly, I like our secondary against their wide receivers. The only person, look, AJ Brown doesn't scare me as much as Devante Smith does.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I understand AJ, he's that guy, but we played against him twice a year. I know what he's capable of, and I fully think that Stephon Gilmore can handle him, because Stephon, what he has problems with is speed receivers. He's perfectly amazing against the big receivers, with the 50-50 catch and the strong hands. That's who he excels against. And I think he can lock down AJ for the majority of the game. Devante Smith scares me, especially if Isaiah Rodgers is not able to stay healthy, come back from this illness and start this game, because this dude is a little quick demon out there.
Mm-hmm. And he's their Paris Campbell. As soon as he gets the ball in his hands, you've got to stop him immediately, because otherwise he will make you pay, like you said, with that speed. And honestly, I'm of this, like, I wouldn't mind seeing a little extra man coverage in here, because like you said, AJ Brown with Gilly Lock, and then Isaiah Rodgers Sr. against Devante Smith. Now with Goddard missing, you still got other things, you got to worry about Zach Pascal, who we're all very familiar with and stuff, But like I said, if you can sit there and get these two guys on the outside and then just really help the linebackers, I think that'd also go a little bit in helping them also prevent the run plays.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I'm not too big. I'm not worried, honestly, too much about the running game and the scrambling ability of Hurts. What the Indianapolis Colts excel at, because of their speed, their overall speed on defense, is being able to contain scrambling quarterbacks and handle, those RPOs and the run game and stuff like that. They're very good, however, at stretching the field on stretch run plays and throwing screens and things of that nature. So the defense is going to always have to keep their eye open and make sure, if an offensive lineman lets you through, it seemed like it was awfully easy to get back there. Just stop and turn around and go after the running back, because that's where the ball's going. Okay, I'm just saying. All right.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't want to act like I'm not worried, but I do think that the Colts, whether it's EJ Speed or maybe you Bobby O, but somebody's going to be shadowing Jalen Hurts. They're going to. I mean, we've seen these quarterbacks. I mean, they're everywhere now. With, like I said, you got the Lamar Jacksons and the Kyler Murray. I mean, so we know what the recipe is or the solution to stopping that part. But like you say, get out there, set that edge, and just really. I don't want to say make him beat you with his arm, because you know what? He could easily do that as well. But just sit there and let these guys play cohesive, under control, but dominating defense. And I do. Our defense has held us in a lot of these games that, quite honestly, our offense wasn't doing them any favors. So now if this offense can get this thing clicking like they did last week and build off that, I mean, to sit there and say that we could beat the Eagles with an offensive performance like we had last week, I don't think we can. Honestly, I mean, we cannot sit there and turn the ball over. We can't sit there and get on the other side of the 50 and then be like, oh, here, you have this. You know what I mean? So there are things that definitely need cleaned up and improved from last week. But that offensive line play, man, did they show up and show out last week, and got JT getting these accolades that he, player of the week and the MVP for Nickelodeon. I mean, I love sitting there seeing that these guys are starting to figure this stuff out. And so for me, I'm really, really watching that Braden Smith and wanting to know who is going to be able to step up to that spot.
Well, to me, honestly, I don't have a worry on the defense outside of that defensive end, in my opinion. Like I said, that first half against the Raiders, they didn't let him get past the 50 until the very last drive of the game for the Raiders. They had 3 and outs to start the game off, and then their next drive, they got to the 48-yard line, and the Colts said, "Nah, that's enough. That's enough." And Rodney McLeod said that is your earlier, before that game, Rodney said, that's where we're at now. Mm-hmm. It's not about stopping them from getting touchdowns. It's not about stopping them from getting in field goal range. It's about stopping them from getting to the 50. All right. That's where they're at now as a defense. That's impressive. Okay. Yeah. So my question is, Nick Sirianni is a former Colt offensive coordinator. He knows this defense. He knows DeForest Buckner, and he knows Grover Stewart. Who's he going to be looking at the offensive line coach and saying, dude, you need to double this guy more than this guy? Because you can't. You can't double both at the same time. It's just not something you can do. And he knows that both these guys are absolute game records.
Yeah, and not to mention, we already discussed it, but if you start moving Defo, is Defo going to be out at the edge? Is Defo going to be at the 3 tech? I mean, there's some interesting pieces, and because of their flexibility, these guys can move around. But like you said, I'm comfortable with this defense. Not sitting there acting like we're going to shut Philly out. I'm not trying to pretend like that. But what I mean is, I'm just comfortable with those matchups. I look at this and say, that's good football. That's going to make this a good football game. On the offensive side is where I'm like, okay, was this a mirage? Was this one of those, we had a good performance and then we're going to go back to where we just were? Because if that's the case, but now if these guys sit there and play cohesive, and like I said, play to your strengths, use that run game. I mean, Will Fry's out there last week along with Quentin Nelson, and the line just looked like they were playing with that extra energy, with that extra desire. Like I remember during the live game reaction going, man, these guys are pushing to the whistle and then some. Another thing is you look at this defensive line that the Eagles bring in, it's like the run game is their Achilles, because you look at what they are with a pass rush, and they're one of the top, what is it, 29 sacks already, I think, up to this point. So, Matt Ryan, if you drop back, my guy, you need to understand, now you just went and made that offensive line's job a lot harder. But we saw last week, and we've seen all year, Matt Ryan can do the short, quick release passes and stuff. I'm just like, you know what? Bang, pound that rock. Do good on the first downs like you did last week. That'll go a real long way to help slow down this Eagles pass rush.
All right, so here's the issue. All right, because not only do they got a pretty decent defensive line, I mean, we're talking about guys like Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargraves, Josh Sweat, who had a nice game, but look at their secondary. First off, Darius Slay, he is to them what, Stephon Gilmore's been to us this year. He has been that locked down corner and has been for a while. When Rodney and I was talking earlier about our pregame show, he said he told Matt Ryan, don't throw towards number 2. If you do, make sure the dude's open and Slay is nowhere to be seen. Okay. Just trust yourself in that situation, but don't test him. And then, of course, they went out and got James Bradbury, right? Which is another big, huge jump right there. Marcus Epps, CJ Gardner-Johnson back there at safeties. And, look, there's a name on this roster that some of us Colts fans, some of us guys who's been to training camp, remember from last year and was absolutely thoroughly pissed off that the Colts released him and didn't put him on the 53, and that's Andre Saucheray.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to go there. There's just so much. I mean, you look at, you got Saucheray, you got Zach Pascal, then you sit there and talked about Sirianni, and you got Josh Gannon, at the defensive coordinator. There is a lot, Rodney McLeod here for the Colts and stuff. So as far as an NFC AFC matchup, I don't know that there's any two teams that would understand the philosophy of each other more than what, I get it. It's very similar to an AFC game for us is what it is, because of the comfortable and understanding that they know. But yeah, like you said, this Eagles defense is really, they're what we were last year as far, they're real stingy. They don't turn the ball over a whole lot on the offense, but boy, they will come in and steal it like like it's theirs on the defense. So it's like you said, Matt Ryan, if you pull that trigger, my guy, you got to make sure that your guy's in a position to win, because we've seen it. This Colts team is already turning the ball over to some of these lesser defenses, so you do not want to give, Slay or Bradbury, because they may end up turning around into being a pick six or something. These guys are legit. So I like our receivers. I like the size of our receivers in these matchups and stuff. But the ones I'm really looking at offensively is tight end Kylan Granson and Paris Campbell. Guys, let's sit there and hit those intermediate pass routes and just turn those into the big play. JT, when you're not running the ball, you mind catching a couple out in the flat, turning those into the big plays. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a very tall task, but I am, with the offensive production from the line that we got last week, and with just the way this offense has moved the ball pretty much all year, even with all the turnovers and stuff, I really, like I said, I'm excited about this game. You'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, oh yeah, we got the Eagles. Now I'm like, yeah, we got the Eagles. Let's really see where this team is, and let's see how much of last week sticks and we build on, and how much from last week is just like, oh, that was just another little quick glimpse of what could be or should be.
All right. Well, first off, Chaz, thank you for dropping $5 in the donation jar. He used that link right at the top of the description of the video, right there where it says donations. Much, much appreciated, my guy. He says, hey, Fries was looking mean last week, pushing after the whistle and everything. How do you think he holds up this week? That is a great question, Chaz. And let me get into that really quick. In my opinion, Fries does good because he has brains. He has smarts. Keeps his head on a swivel. He's got pretty good foot movement. He's got pretty good hand movement. He's good in that aspect. The thing that worries me about Fries is that he gets overpowered, right? Mm-hmm. And again, in this game, you got Hargraves and Fletcher Cox. If Fletcher clocks, if he clocks Fries, we're in trouble. If Fletcher Cox moves over and Hargraves and Cox flips, that's going to be scary. If Ndamukong Suh comes in for Hargraves in that spot, you are going to have Kelly's going to probably have to handle him and just let Cox and Nelson deal with it, each other one-on-one, because this is a situation where, in my opinion, you might actually have to give a little bit more help to Fries in this game because of the power they have up front.
Yeah. But like I said, the thing that can really help Fries out a lot is just run the ball. That's his strength. That's his, then he doesn't have to sit there and anchor and worry about, like you said, being overpowered, because he's a young man. He's still growing into the position and stuff. But I'll tell you right now, you sit there and you put him at run blocking and stuff. He looks like a vet. He looks like, this is where I live. This is where I thrive. So that is going to go a long ways. But, these guys, I cannot express this. I mean, the Eagles Monday night, which I understand it's only a day, but did you see how many snaps and how physical that game was? Okay. That one day of rest is huge right now to these guys, especially Fletcher Cox and stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm cautiously anxious to see what Fries does, because I really believe that if we can run the ball and start wearing these guys out, I think that they're going to fade out a little bit quicker than what you might have seen them fade out, had it been a Sunday game, the week before.
Absolutely. All right. Smooth Fit. See you. Glad to see you here. We got a few Patreon members in here. Brandon and Tom and you and Jack's even in here. We got quite a few guys in here. If you want to be a patron member, it's only $5 a month. You get to join us on our weekly Patreon only stream every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we all just come in, hang out, just like Loyalist and I. You get a chance to either join us on video or just hang out in the chat and watch as well. Plus, you get a lot of background stuff that you don't normally get unless you're a Patreon member. You want to explain a little bit, Loyalist?
Yeah, you get to sit there and watch all the behind-the-scenes footage of the Believe in Colts podcast that Lawrence and Gerard Powers and Rodney McLeod, who you guys are all familiar with. You get to sit there and see. First off, you get to see it all in the taping of it. He breaks it up. Lawrence breaks it up so that they have smaller segments throughout the week. But if you're a Patreon member, you get to watch that all from the giddy up, from beginning to end. All the behind the scenes and stuff. Also, there's just. Our Patreon's really starting to build up to be a good group of multiple teams. We got Joe Mama, from the Pittsburgh Steeler fan base. We got Patriots guy Matt. So we've got a lot of guys from other teams and stuff, and that's the beauty of it. We can sit there and get an outside perspective. Yeah, Wick, I'm talking to you, Wick. If you're still watching, I know you're a Eagles fan, but come on in, man. You're as welcome as anybody else. You're muted, bud.
We're going to take a moment now, since it's about 33 minutes in. I'm going to drop a couple, ads. Just do want to let you know that my man DeForest Buckner here, he thinks y'all ought to go over to the Backroom Collection and buy one of their wonderful, things here. They got multiple different things you can go check out. Go check it out. This channel is proudly sponsored by the Backroom Collection. They do beautiful sports canvas art with football, basketball, baseball, and other sports themes. Special orders are accepted and autograph pieces are available. Many Indianapolis Colts sign pieces will be available beginning in November. Just use your discount code CL10 to purchase the pieces you want to spice up your living area. That's CL10. This video is sponsored by Newsbreak. Newsbreak is an app used over 1.5 billion times a month by people just like you to get local news via articles or videos by those who are focused on that specific area. People like myself. Just use the link in the description of this video to download it. Then search a city, state, or someone specific, like myself, Colts Law. Then make sure to follow them so you'll get all the news fresh as it comes out. And again, as I was talking, if you guys want to make sure that your question or comment gets dropped in here, please use the link in the top of the description right here where it says donations. It's just like a super chat, and there's no limit. Well, there is a limit on how much you can ask or say, but it's not nearly as much as if you would use a regular YouTube super chat. So appreciate you guys. Walking into this game, in my opinion, I think the tight ends have to have a fantastic day. All right, because they do have a good defensive line. The Eagles do. They got a great secondary. I think the tight ends need to take advantage of their weakest position, in my opinion, on this Eagles, and that's the linebacking core. And I feel like that you mentioned his name earlier. I think Kylan Granson could be in for a really big day this Sunday.
Yeah, and Mo Alley Cox, I mean, we need him to block like a man child. You know what I mean? We need him to once again take what he did last week, take that consistency. I mean, you guys seen that 66-yard run from JT last week. I mean, that was all started off by a beautiful block on Crosby from Mo Alley Cox, you know, getting him out of the play. And then you seen Fries and Braden Smith just abolish the whole right side of that line and collapse it down. And JT was just like, he didn't even get touched until he got to like the 3 or 4 yard line. He was already 60 plus yards, you know, dusted to win before he even got contact. So that's, we need to see that. And then, like you said, you know, Kylan Granson, what was it, 4 or 4 last week, I think, for just under 50 yards or something like that. Made all the catches, all his opportunities. See that. And the thing is once he gets his hands on the ball, he's got that speed. He's got sort of those Dallas Clark type of characteristics and stuff where he can magnify or, you know, and improve on the amount of yards that he gets on the play. And I know he's not a tight end, but I'd like to lump Paris Campbell from the slot in there here as well, because if you sit there and he puts a lot of stress on those linebackers as well. You know, we got to see a little bit of that speed last week. I wouldn't mind seeing a lot more of that this week.
Basil in here says, what? Edwards is playing lights out. He's playing very good, TJ Edwards is, but let's face it, Hassan Reddick has not been the linebacker that they were hoping at strong, and then Kaiser White is not exactly someone that you can write home about. I mean, they do have TJ Edwards over there, but this is their weakest position group on the defense, and that's all I'm saying. Take advantage of the weakest point, and something that I feel that we could possibly take advantage of, because like I said, and you talked about, we have weapons that can go over the middle, and with Slay and Bradbury on the outsides, probably like you're talking about, going to be on Michael Pittman Jr. and on our rookie who, you know,
Alec
can
Pierce.
take it downtown. Yeah, Alec Pierce. That's going to leave it up for guys like Paris Campbell to really make some noise when, you know, his number is called.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out to Basil, there's a difference from trying to attack the weakest and then saying that they're weak. Okay, you know, and that they're, you know, that's a big difference, because you look at this Eagles team, they're a solid team from, you know, from stem to stern. I mean, these guys, the Sirianni and Howie Roseman, sorry, these guys have really put together a roster and got these guys playing at a high level. But like you said, man, you got to sit there and eyeball where are you going to be able to make most of your hay, because I don't see Matt Ryan airing this thing out for 30 plus passes. I mean, if he has to, fine. But if he has to, that means that they really sold out to stop the run, in which case then now that advantage is created in a different way.
Absolutely. Easy baby. What's up? Says, since they've been throwing the Paris, he's been our best receiver. Absolutely. I've been saying for 3 years now, I've been saying Paris Campbell is a dynamite wide receiver. I just wish he could stay on the stinking field to get that reps with the quarterbacks, because every year he gets hurt, and when he leaves, it's a different quarterback there. You know what I'm saying? So now he can't get anything with him. The only way that he could get that is to stay healthy and play through the year and just get better and get that rapport with that quarterback. So now you're starting to see that with him, and he's staying healthy, and he's making not just electric plays, but just plays that, you could throw it to him and he's going to catch it in traffic, take a hit, and guaranteed he's going to pick up that first down and hold on to the football.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, I won't bring up this message from B-Ball here, because this is, everybody's like, Eagles have picked up a bunch of people, and however they gave up a 4th round pick for Quinn. Quinn's really isn't he in his like a 3rd game or something, and he's just starting to get his rhythm with this team, and that's a guy who was actively playing, for the Bears the week before, and the thing is Ndamukong Suh has not been playing, so I don't know that Sue and Joseph, they're going to get a ton of reps, but I think that you might see him small little pocket just to give Fletcher Cox and this D-line a little bit of break, because these guys, like I said, last week's game, they were tested and tested often. And I sit there and I look at that game and I look at the Colts and I'm like, okay, if our offensive line as a whole plays like they did last week, they're better than what Washington's offensive line was last week. I look at JT, I'll take JT over, Gibson all day, every day. You know what I mean? So these are things that I'm just looking at and I'm very excited to sit there and see, because this to me is a measuring stick, not of Jeff Saturday as far as does he know the X's up, but as far as Jeff Saturday getting this team ready to play. I mean, it's his first game at Lucas Oil Stadium. The crowd, you guys that are going, need to be loud. I mean, Jalen Hurts needs to sit there and go, man, I thought home was an advantage. Really need to get out there and get loud as heck. And then every time the offense scores, and I think that this offense is going to be able to score a little bit more than what we've come to accustomed to.
That's kind of funny. So, all right, guys, I real quick, I see there's 66 of you in here right now. I see 24 likes. 24. Can we get this stream to 50? I'd appreciate that, because hitting the like button does a huge boost for the analytics on YouTube. Helps us get out our stream to more people. We appreciate that. And if you do want to donate to the channel to help us, feel free to use that donation link in the video. Even if you're watching this after we stop going live and decide you want to help support the channel with a donation, we will get with you the next time we go live, when we go probably on Sunday, when we do our live game reaction to the game. It'll be there. We'll bring it up. We'll discuss whatever it is that you had to say, question or comment. But I appreciate you guys. All right. Now, what do you guys want to talk about? All right, let's get into the chat fully, all out, and see what you guys want to discuss.
I got one here.
Go ahead.
Start off with what it says with Quiddy payout this week. I wonder if the 6th rounder Curtis Brooks might get activated to spell the guys, at the strong DN. And that is an interesting, I don't know. Because he's more of the 3 tech, and even maybe spelling Grover. I don't know. I don't know that, he's going to be able to get out there and make that much. Like I said, I think we're going to see a lot of Dio and Effetti, you know what I mean?
Well, Curtis does have a really good get off, right? He takes off really good. He's got some good initial moves. I think he probably could run the strong side. I wouldn't want him on weak side as the main pass rusher. That's not something that I would look at. But Curtis could come in and, fill in for, say, DeForest Buckner, while DeForest runs over there to that strong side defensive end. You definitely expect some things of that nature, where you might see some spelling of people with some of the depth, but there is just with both those guys out, it's just going to be a really difficult. But there is a situation. I have a feeling that the Indianapolis Colts are in a good spot right now. People want to talk about, how the Raiders was just, in a mess and their defense wasn't. Look, here's the thing. They do have good players on their team. Can't say Max Crosby does not play his ass off every play in, play out, right? And we held him to 1 sack, and he wouldn't even gotten that sack if it wasn't for the pressure that we gave up on the same play, right? That was a situation where he was blocked out on that play and ended up getting the sack, right? Yeah. So for Max Crosby to only have, 1 time where he got to meet a quarterback or even get close to the quarterback, that says a lot to me. That says a lot. And I feel like, again, you got guys that they have corners out there that are actually pretty good. Rock Ya-Sin right now is rated a top 10 corner in the NFL for the Raiders, and he's out there playing his heart out. We were still able to throw the football. Granted, it wasn't, it's not the whole team, right? But when it comes to the offensive line, the Raiders' run defense isn't horrible, okay?
Oh, no.
They were middle of the pack run D, and we still ran the ball well on them.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can continue to do that, I feel like we can step up and possibly have a shot against the Eagles. I'm not saying we're going to win, but if the offensive line, look, you got to remember, the offensive line had 2 practices with Jeff Saturday last week before the Raiders game. Now they had those 2 plus the game plus this entire week to get with Saturday, and for Saturday to get his hands in and actually put his imprint on this offensive line. I expect him to play better than what they did last week.
I do too. I very much do, because like you said, those practices last week, I mean, he came in Monday afternoon, so he didn't even really get to sit down with the guys until Wednesday, because Tuesday is their normal off day. And then, then he's just introducing himself. I mean, these guys are going through walkthroughs and stuff. This week they got to get in the lab and really sit there and start working on some of the problems, I mean, because this stadium this week is going to help feed this team. And like I said, get this thing rolling, good Lord, we had the lead in the first half of a game. I would love to get the lead against the Eagles and then just try to sustain that and let our defense, because nothing's going to come easy on this defense, and I don't believe that they're going to gash us for a lot of big plays, because that's what this Colts defense is really good at, is keeping everything in front of them. So like always, go out there, don't let them get beat deep, be good tacklers, and just sit there and let this offensive line just keep gelling and growing. I did want to bring up a real quick one, and it's from Robert Johnson. Says, if we make the playoffs, do you think Shaq will be back for the play? Absolutely not. He is done for the year, because the thing is yes, he just had the surgery, but then you've got to sit there and go through all the rehabilitation. You've got to deal with you're waiting on nerves to start firing properly and stuff. Let Shaq heal. Let Shaq get into OTAs.
His last surgery, he was out for 3 months afterwards. There's no possible way he's going to be back for the playoffs.
Absolutely. So just let him get in there and get everything going as strong and healthy as he can possibly be.
D-Love drops in here, says, do you think Chris Ballard's job is safe or not? Because for me, I think he's done a phenomenal job, but I hear chatter about that he needs to go, but night and day compared to Grigson's. Thoughts? No, he's not done. He's going to be here at least one more year. For one thing, the roster he's built is phenomenal, right? He has built a phenomenal roster. The one bad thing that you could talk about with him is the fact that he has not been able to get a long-term franchise quarterback. And to be fair, he's not really had an opportunity to do that. He took a shot with Carson Wentz, with Frank Reich being here. Didn't work out. That was the only real opportunity he's had. He's not had any chance to go out and get a real one. I mean, the draft has been awful for quarterbacks the last few years. And when it comes to, free agency, Carson Wentz was the best option outside of Matthew Stafford. And I don't know about you. I like Matt Stafford, but he's not worth what, the Rams paid him. And I would have been madder than hell if we didn't even have first-round pick, let alone 2 first-round picks in order to trade to go get him. I feel like this is the year. He's got some ammunition in the draft picks. He's got some players that he could actually utilize if he wanted to. Not saying he will, but he could use as trade bait to throw in with some of his draft picks to move up in a draft if he absolutely chooses to. This next year, I think, will be the big, question mark. It'll be where Ballard's job is on the line, in my opinion, in that aspect.
Yeah, and I agree with D-Love. I like the talent evaluation. I mean, I understand. I don't agree with the choice that we made this year at left tackle. Okay. But you sit there and you look at the whole picture of the way he's built this roster. I'm 100% on board with building from the trenches out. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And look how well that's proven to be. I mean, Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, and Ryan Kelly. And I get it. This year, not exactly what we've come accustomed. But the thing is all the years prior, you've seen very stout offensive line. And the thing is you build that way and it's going to be more sustainable. We just, whether it was a new voice or whatever, you know what I mean? We just had to sit there and really get these guys fired up and on the same page.
Absolutely. Easy says, does anyone here actually believe that we can win if they load up to stop the run, forcing a throw over the top? Absolutely.
Oh,
you're
yes.
gonna put 7-8 guys in the box. You're gonna leave one-on-one with who I feel like we have 3 very legitimate throwing targets, right? Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, Kylan Granson. I feel like you're not going to be able to cover all 4 of those guys one-on-one for very long. Okay, someone's getting open, and a guy like Matt Ryan with his experience is going to find that guy who's open. So yes, that's the thing that we were talking about earlier. If they load the box, don't expect 40 rushes out of the Colts. Don't expect it. This is a situation where I feel like the Indianapolis Colts need to be effective and balanced as an offense to keep them guessing, not make them think, like against Washington, where they knew they were running the football and they held Washington to 3 yards of carry in that game. They just continued force feeding, even though they were only getting 3 yards of carry. Look, I want to see 5-6 yards of carry for Jonathan Taylor or more, right? I don't want to see 3 yards of carry because you go to 3 yards of carry, you're not moving the ball very well. I want to see run, pass, run, pass, run, pass, pass, then maybe another pass. I want to see a good mixture and something that is not, you can't just look at it and go, okay, this dude here's going AAB, AAB, AAB. I don't want to see that either, but to be fair, our new play caller, Parks Frazier did a good job against the Raiders. I felt like keeping the Raiders on their toes. No one knew what was going to happen. And yet, for the most part, I thought he really called a pretty darn good game.
Oh, yeah, especially on first down. Love the play calling on first down. And that, guys, all game long, we were getting 4-5 yards at least on first down. And that just makes life so much easier. So much easier. I did want to, because this is, Brayton Nicholas says Ryman had his best game, and just as Nelson did. I would sit there and say that for this year, the whole offensive line had its best game. Because, like I said, with one, you've seen the elevation of the other guys. Fry's coming out there, Q coming out there, setting the tone, playing through the whistle. Bernard Ryman, he was getting a little bit of assistance from Q. You've seen Q running down the field again. It's been a few games since we've seen that energy and that level, the expectation level being set higher and stuff. So, like I said, guys, if we could sit there and get this O-line to continue and make that their low point and build off of that, we can beat a lot of these teams, because now we're going back and we're back. Remember what it was like during the offseason before, the offensive line just dropped the ball for the first 9 games, how excited we were about, Matt Ryan throwing out, like you said, throwing work in the middle of the field, getting the quick releases, JT being able to be productive again. These are all back in the conversation. And most of this, not all of it, but most of this is because of this improved play by the offensive line. Get out there, move the ball, own the time of possession. Like I said, short, quick passes. I don't expect to see a lot of airing it down the field unless Sirianni and the Eagles come out and just totally, like you said, sell out to stop the run. But even 7 in the box, I'm handing it to JT. You start getting into 8 or 9 in the box, then you got to start looking at other options, because not that JT couldn't do it, but that's not a way to sustain productivity.
Tony Robertson says, we've always had the players, the play calling that killed us. I don't think it was the play calling overall. I think it was just the fact that the offensive line was ass the first 9 weeks of the season. Okay. That's the situation where now could he have, and this is to be on, in all honest, sometimes you do need to play calls where you got more than one hot route available. Right? Because if you just got a dump off to a running back, a lot of times that running back is going to be covered, right? So you need two guys to be able to throw that football in case your offensive line is not doing well. If you got a game where the defense is really getting through your offensive line, you need to have play calls where you got two guys that you could do that with. Someone running a quick drag route and then someone out in the flat or something of that nature. And there's limitations when it comes to making plays like that, but it would be a good idea. Frankly, what I've heard from Jeff Saturday is he wants the ball out quick. He's saying, let's throw that ball quickly. Obviously take your shots once in a while, but for the most part, he wants that ball out inside, under 3 seconds. Under 3 seconds, most of the time under 2 seconds. And that is what's very, very important. That helps your offensive line out quite a bit. So we're going to find out this week how good this offensive line and Jeff Saturday and his imprint on this offensive line, if it's legit or if it was kind of a smokescreen because of the team that we were playing against last week. So, guys, thanks, everybody. I think that's going to do it for us for today. Please smash that like button. I'm looking over here, and I'm seeing 34 likes. Get as many as you can as you're getting ready to walk out. I'd appreciate that. Leave comments in the comment section. Feel free to donate. Check out other links in the description, Patreon, stuff like that. Any closing words, Loyalist?
No, I see it here, in the chat. We got Joey Baggs, who's a little skeptical, and I get it. He says the Eagles are going to be ticked off and about losing their game. I understand that, but you know what? You got to remember that this Colts team's fighting for everything. They're fighting for respect. They're fighting for honor. They're fighting for the playoffs, And the thing is both of these teams are coming in with certain emotional driving factors. But I'll tell you right now, you sit there and you put a team's future on the line and stuff and back against the corner. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Joey Bags. You've seen it. These guys really do come and man, I'll tell you right now, they can fight all day long. If this offensive line produces like we said, and it to me, it boils down to offensive line. If these guys can come out and rock it out, hopefully we can get some more of that skepticism washed away and get to where where everybody's on board. What's up? No horsing around.
Absolutely, guys. If you want my prediction for this game, I'm not giving it to you here. You go and check out Believe in Colts with Rodney McLeod where we broke down the game. I got mine there. You can go and check that out. It's a real easy click. It's at the end of the video, guys. So if you want to skip through, which I don't suggest, but if you want to skip through it, feel free. Check out what our predictions are for that game. What's your prediction?
All righty. Like I said, guys, I am on board. I believe that this offensive line has figured out some things. I think that we're going to be able to put more points on the board than we've seen on average this year. I honestly think that the Colts are going to be in a dogfight from the getting. But I'm going to sit there and say that the Colts win 30-27. It's going to be, I think our offense is going to get, because our defense is going to give us more 3 and outs. Our defense this is whenever they really step up. And like I said, JT sit there and pound the rock, and sooner or later these things are going to start popping off like they did last week. So I've got the Colts winning 30-27 over the Eagles. What do you guys say? Put it in the chat and stuff.
Absolutely. Guys, I honestly, Brandon, we're only 1 game out of the playoffs right now. The season is not over. Absolutely not. This team is fighting. We just discussed this earlier this week when we broke down the Raiders game with me and Rodney McLeod and Stephon Gilmore. So make sure you go check that out as well, as we talked with Stephon Gilmore for a while. And then, of course, yesterday's with just Rodney as we talked about the Philadelphia Eagles. But, guys, I hope that I agree with you, Basil. I hope that Smith plays. That's my biggest worry on this team right now. But I think that's going to do it for us for this episode of Believe in Colts. Please don't forget, smash that like button. Check out the Patreon. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Colts Loyalist. And as usual, have a good one.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.
Let's go out there, Lucas Oil Stadium, on Sunday and give our support for the Fighting Jeff Sundays.